the cemetery among the pines. In the northern part of Maine, where roads dissolve into mist and pines stand so thick that they hide the sky, there is a place people rarely speak of. It isn't marked on any map. Even satellite images show only a dark spot in the forest, a patch where the trees form a perfect circle and shadows linger even in daylight. Once, it had been a cemetery. Small, ancient, forgotten, since the 19th century, when the sawmills burned down and the settlers left. Then came the moss, the fog, and time. People forgot, but the forest did not. The road to silence. When the car left the asphalt and rolled onto the old forest track, everything around sank into green twilight. The light filtered weakly through the branches and the wind seemed too soft, as if it absorbed every sound. The man driving was alone. He wasn't there for thrill or curiosity. He was a photographer, a documenter of forgotten places, someone who sought remnants of human life where it had long since disappeared. He had learned about the cemetery from a newspaper dated 1892, yellowed and fragile, describing a fire that destroyed a chapel and left a few dozen graves behind. The road narrowed until it was barely a path. Branches scraped the sides of the car and mud clung to the tires like glue. It felt as though the forest didn't want him there. When he finally stopped, there was no sound. Not even birds. Silence. Absolute, heavy and breathless, pressed in from every side. The first grave that he walked on foot, camera ready, documenting everything. Fallen trunks, moss-covered stones, a faint outline of an old iron fence. The ground grew soft beneath his boots, springy with rot and damp. The first grave appeared unexpectedly. He almost tripped over it. A crooked stone slab, half swallowed by earth, its inscription worn away. Moss crawled through the cracks, and beneath it something living seemed to move. Around him stood dozens more, all unmarked, nameless. He set up his camera for a panoramic shot, but the focus kept slipping. Not to the graves, but to the space behind him. To nothing. The chapel. Amid the trees stood a dark shape, an old wooden structure half collapsed but still upright. The chapel. The roof sagged, the windows shattered, yet the altar inside remained, covered with dust and ash. He stepped inside. The air was thick and stale. In the corner lay a rotted wooden cross and melted candle stubs, blackened by fire. Beneath the ashes was a small iron bell, rusted, cracked, yet intact. When he touched it, a faint wind rose in the forest. The bell didn't ring, but the air changed. The trees seemed to draw closer. The daylight dimmed. Under his feet, something cracked. The floorboards sagged, revealing an opening below. A dark tunnel. What lies beneath? He climbed down carefully, flashlight trembling in his hand. The stench was unbearable. Rot, ash and iron. Beneath the chapel stretched a stone corridor, narrow and slick with moisture. Drops fell from the ceiling and echoed like footsteps. Rusty hooks lined the walls, perhaps once holding lamps or ropes. The floor was thick with dust, yet footprints led through it. Fresh ones. The corridor ended in a chamber. In the center stood a stone sarcophagus, etched with markings too eroded to read. Above it hung a cross-like symbol, twisted and wrong, like something reversed. He raised the light closer. Dust swirled upward, and for an instant, a face seemed to appear in the air. Blank, featureless, pale as smoke. The beam flickered. When it steadied again, nothing remained. He took a photo. On the camera screen was only darkness. But when he zoomed in, a faint silhouette appeared. a human figure standing beside the sarcophagus, back to the surface. When he emerged, daylight was fading. The sky was the color of ash and the pines looked taller, denser. The silence had returned, but it was no longer empty. It was expectant. He turned to leave, yet no path remained. The trail was gone. Every direction looked the same. Endless trees, endless shadow. Even the compass on his phone spun aimlessly. The ground softened further. The air smelled not just of dampness, but of decay. Roots pulsed beneath the soil, shifting as if something beneath the earth was breathing. He kept walking, hoping to find the road, but found the chapel instead. Only now it looked new. The windows whole, the roof unbroken. Fresh earth lay before the door, recently disturbed, as if someone had dug a grave. The night darkness fell suddenly, like a dropped curtain. His flashlight flickered weakly. The battery was dying. He sat against the wall of the chapel, waiting for dawn. The forest moved with soft, rhythmic sounds. Not animals, not the wind. Something shapeless glided between the trees. Each time he closed his eyes, it was closer. The shadow grew denser, heavier. When the light finally went out, the darkness itself seemed alive. It breathed beside him. It touched his skin. And beneath the ground, something stirred. Slow, deliberate, patient. The morning that never came. The sun did not rise. The sky was a dull grey sheet, unmoving. He stood up, disoriented. The forest looked different, younger, thinner. The chapel was gone. In its place lay smooth, fresh earth. His camera sat on the ground. Inside, there was only one photograph. A pine forest and a grave in the center. On the gravestone, his name. He stared at it for a long time. Around him, silence returned. Not peaceful, but total. A light breeze brushed the branches. Something small fell. The iron bell. It didn't make a sound when it hit the ground, but the silence deepened, expanding like a wave, swallowing every trace of life. Then everything faded away. Years later, the forest in Maine remains empty. People say no birds sing there, no animals pass through. Hunters sometimes find an old camera. Always the same model. Every image inside is black, except the last one. A fresh grave among the pines. No name. No one knows who leaves it there. No one knows whose grave it is. But every night, when fog rolls down from the hills and the pines begin to sway without wind, a faint sound drifts through the trees. A single echo of a distant bell. And if you stand too close, you can feel it. The soft, slow movement of the ground beneath your feet. As if something buried there is still breathing, still listening.